Calaroga Shark Media.
Saturdays this summer for deep dives on single topics. Hello, I'm Johnny Mack, and let's start in Chicago. It's 2002. We are in a rat-infested basement. Nate Bargatze's there with his friend Michael Clay. They were meter readers at a water company back home, and they decided they were going to become comedians. They moved to Chicago and rented a basement they nicknamed the Dugout, and they signed up for classes at Second City, you know, the improv factory that gave you Bill Murray, Tina Fey, half of every SNL cast for 50 years. Nate did it for a minute and figured out pretty quickly improv was not his thing. He switched over to a stand-up program run by a guy named Jim Routh. Nate did his first set in April of 2003 and started picking up scraps around Chicago and back home in Nashville.
My name's Nate. It might be hard to understand me at some times. I'm from New York City. I'm just kidding. I'm from Nashville. I wear this shirt for a couple of reasons. So if I get questions like that, they're like, oh, Nashville, okay. If people come in late, they know. They don't have to interrupt us by asking. They'll just read my shirt. If they can't figure that out, then they're probably from Nashville too. They probably have the same shirt. I also wear it in case I get lost. People know where to send me. It's kind of like a dog leash. I got my name and number written in the back.
This part of the story matters because it skips the Nate Bargatze creation myth that he's this wholesome Nashville guy, his dad's a magician, he does clean comedy. It skips the part where he actually came up in Chicago. He wasn't a regional guy who got discovered. He went and did the unglamorous thing that comedians do, which is move somewhere else with a real comedy scene and get humiliated in front of small rooms until something clicks. In 2004, Nate moved to New York City. He got a job as a barker for the Boston Comedy Club, which is a club in New York City, which meant standing in Greenwich Village, handing out flyers in exchange for stage time at night. You ever see these guys? They'll be like, hey, do you like stand-up comedy? It is a rough gig. Nate was also driving for FedEx and walking dogs during the day to make the rent. But back in those days, the Boston Comedy Club was a real room. Dave Chappelle came through there, Bill Burr, Patrice O'Neal, Louis C.K. Nate has talked about watching those guys from the back, paying close attention to comedians who were not doing clean comedy. And he has said it took close to a year before he got his first actual paying gig in New York City. He described those early years as doing as many as 7 sets a night, bouncing between rooms, which by his account is too many. Nate will tell you 5 is the realistic ceiling before you stop being able to tell what you're even saying anymore. Nate Bargatze stayed in New York City for almost 9 years. 9 years at the Comedy Cellar, the Stand, Caroline's. That's where he got the education, the place where he built the timing and the writing instincts that everybody now associates with effortless dad comedy, except none of it was effortless and none of it happened in Nashville. He built this in rooms that were dirty and rowdier than almost anything he'd ever performed himself. And the interesting part is the people in the quote-unquote mainstream comedy culture openly liked him, despite Nate being nothing like them. The detail that the dirty comics of that era genuinely loved Nate tells you that the cleanliness was never a defensive posture. It was just who he was, tested against an audience that had every incentive to expose him if he wasn't real. Part of the discovery story you don't hear about involves Marc Maron. Maron saw Nate at a festival called Laugh Fest back in 2012 and tweeted about him and brought him onto WTF that same year. Marc Maron, not exactly known for wholesome sensibility, not exactly the Nashville demo, but Maron always had a sharp eye for who's actually good underneath the surface presentation, and he clocked Nate almost immediately. That WTF appearance did something specific for Nate's career. It put him in front of an audience of comedy people, the exact opposite of the casual audience he'd been known for, and that audience responded because the writing was that strong.
I think I got a fascination with people that live in the South. I want them to set me straight on it. Right. And make me appreciate it as a place where a lot of different kind of people live, and not just the kind of people that are stereotypically Southern.
Yeah, we're like the rest of the country.
You are,
except New York and L.A. They're the only ones that are different.
Oh, really?
I think so.
So we're the assholes?
I mean, sort of. Like y'all, like New York always baffles me because they are like so small on America.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is how it is, and this is how y'all are. And I'm like, in your own state, their people are not like that. Like, they're your own, like, they're...
Yeah, you're only 30 miles away from hill people.
Yeah, like, I mean, very close.
Yeah.
And my people that I can go talk to, like, and get out.
Let's go to upstate in the town of 7.
Yeah. And they get it. Yeah. They get me. I can go to a Walmart and walk around and breathe and feel good about myself.
Around that time, Jim Gaffigan was advocating for Nate, calling him one of the best up-and-comers in the business. Jimmy Fallon found him around the same time and put him on Late Night in 2013, then brought Nate onto something called the Clean Cut Comedy Tour, which Nate used that year to win both the New York and Boston comedy festivals.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Nate Bargatze!
Thank you, everybody. That was exciting. You know, it felt good. All right. I'm from Tennessee originally. Yeah, so that's something. And I lived in New York though for 8 years. I'm on board with New York. I like it. I like the driving. It's like great. It's very intense. Everybody just honks at everybody nonstop, and that's how it should be everywhere. You know, like growing up in the South, no one honks their horn ever. People just sit at lights, and they're just like, if you want to go, I totally understand.
Conan had him on the old TBS show back in 2008 and brought him back multiple times over the years.
Very excited to be out here. Love getting to travel a bit. I've been to a lot of different countries lately, and it's always weird because like every time I go to another country, I don't ever know where it's at. Because I'm from Tennessee. I didn't learn about countries in school. I learned about Tennessee. I learned about the states that touched us in case they attacked. And then I was told the rest was Europe, and that's where the gays were made.
So by the time most casual audiences eventually discovered Nate through a Netflix special, the actual comedy folks, Maron, Gaffigan, Fallon, Conan, other comedy snobs, you, me, had already spent close to a decade quietly insisting he was one of the best pure writers working. 2014, Yelled At by a Clown, hit number 2 on the Billboard comedy charts. Full-Time Magic followed in 2015. The title of that one, a nod to his dad's actual career as a working magician. In 2019, The Tennessee Kid, that's the one a lot of the comedy nerds point to as the moment the writing fully arrived. It was now confident, specific, less about proving he could be clean and more about just being funny on his own terms, no gimmick. 2021's The Greatest Average American on Netflix got Nate a Grammy nomination for Best Comedy Album. Then he switched teams. 2023, Hello World went to Amazon Prime. That became the most streamed original comedy special in Amazon's history in its first 28 days. And then there was Saturday Night Live. Nate Bargatze hosted Saturday Night Live for the first time on October 28th, 2023. It was the Halloween episode, season 49. Your musical guest, the Foo Fighters. His monologue ran long. The response was strong enough that both Vanity Fair and Entertainment Weekly both wrote him up as a standout. He would come back and host again less than a year later, October 5th, 2024, in season 50, your musical guest Coldplay. That tells us a lot. That's Lorne Michaels making a specific bet that Nate Bargatze could deliver ratings and a clean broadcast back-to-back. Of course, the famous moment is from the first appearance, Washington's Dream. He plays George Washington, walking his soldiers through an absurdly overcomplicated system of measurements.
Weights and measures, sir?
Yes. Yes, I dream of that one day. Our proud nation will measure weights in pounds, and that 2,000 pounds shall be called a ton.
And what will 1,000 pounds be called, sir?
Nothing.
That became one of the most clipped sketches of the season, and Vulture actually ran a piece asking if Nate had cracked the SNL code, whether his specific deadpan, patient style had found a way to work inside of a format that chews up most stand-up hosts. Lorne Michaels does not invite anyone back to host within a year by accident. That, in my opinion, was peak Nate. Then he starts to get a little rocky. Not too bad, but a little. There was the Emmy hosting gig in 2026. CBS announced Nate as the host of the 77th Emmys. The monologue leaned into a bit built around Nate's reputation, the premise that he was terrified of offending anyone in a room full of famous, powerful people, using his clean image as the engine of the joke rather than working around it.
Look at us. We're doing it, all right? Welcome to the 77th Emmy Awards. You know, it's not a big one, like 75 or 80, but it's the one they gave me. It's an honor to be here tonight. I mean, I'm so excited to be here. Just all you guys have worked so hard to get here. I mean, and it's confusing, too, because there's like Reba McEntire. I feel like I'm at the Grammys. Kate Blanchett. I feel like I'm at the Oscars. It's crazy. Tina Fey, I thought like they should have had her host. You know, why? A lot of people were wondering, like, why am I hosting? I don't know what that was, but all right, it counts as a laugh. It's
on paper, maybe it worked. In the room, people felt it ran out of gas before it found its second gear. The reviews afterward were not kind. Award show hosting has chewed up funnier people and even more successful than Nate. David Letterman comes to mind under better circumstances, but it exposed something about the gap between his strength and the longer format. SNL gives him 4 minutes with a premise he can control. And Emmys monologue is 15 plus minutes addressing a room that, isn't there for you. And then Nate made a movie, an actual movie. The Breadwinner hit theaters May 29th, 2026. The pitch, his wife, Mandy Moore's character, lands a Shark Tank deal, and now she's the one with the career, and Nate's stay-at-home dad bumbling around with the 3 daughters. Yeah, that's it. That's the movie. If you know Nate's whole deal, you know exactly what every scene looks like. The reviews were not kind. Roger Ebert's site called it Bargatze, which is pretty good. And then there was the UFC event on the South Lawn of the White House. It was UFC Freedom 250, which was also part of the president's 80th birthday celebration. Nate was there. He's a massive UFC fan, and while there, he took a photo with Cheryl Hines and her husband, RFK Jr. Cheryl posted a photo of the 3 of them together. In the background, J.D. Vance. Comments blew up on Nate's Instagram. People who had seen him 4 times were swearing that they were done. W. Kamau Bell wrote a whole Substack about it. Some outlets started calling Nate MAGA comedian Nate Bargatze and called him part of Team Fascism. His representative put out a statement saying Nate is not political, nor is anything he produces, and called him a huge UFC fan who just wanted to watch fights. All that brings us to Nateland. In 2023, Nate launched Nateland Entertainment, not a touring brand, not a merch line, an actual production company. The stated mission is family-friendly content across stand-up specials, sketches, scripted shows, podcasts, music, the whole apparatus. And then he started to actually use it to actually build other comedians' careers. He's done great with that. Look at the Nateland roster. Dusty Slay, Aaron Weber, who got a debut special produced by Nate Nateland. Nick Thune got one. Derek Stroop, he was on Netflix. Julian McCullough, Joe Zimmerman, Lachlan Patterson. There was the Nateland podcast, Nateland at Sea, an actual cruise built around the brand. So while down in Austin, Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan and gang are doing one thing, Nate is building a quieter, more family-oriented version of the same idea, a content company that gives emerging clean-leaning comedians a real production budget, a real platform, and a real audience that are ready to trust the Nateland name. So what do you do when you're at the top of your game, despite some minor stumbles in 2026? You start to think about walking away from it to open a theme park, an actual theme park on the site of Opryland USA in Nashville. That closed in 1997. Nate plans to build the next great American theme park, a 100-acre land named after himself. It will be called Nateland. He told the Wall Street Journal, "I'm the Mickey Mouse." The initial design for the park is divided into 3 sections based on Nate's roots. Part of it will be Tennessee, part of it his journey to New York, and the rest his reach into the world beyond. Says People magazine, guests will enter through a 1990s-style mall. The Tennessee-themed land will have roller coasters and a donkey dive. The New York area will have street performers, live shows, and a ride through a simulated Times Square. Meanwhile, the 3rd section will have stunt performers and interactive shows. Nate says, "I'm in the ticket-selling business. That's all I've ever been in." That's Daily Comedy News for today. Back tomorrow with a regular episode.